So, welcome back to Mudwalkers. My name is Chris. Believe it or not, I sometimes catch flack for attending the World Naked Bike Ride as a Christian naturist. One objection is that as Christians, we're really not supposed to be rubbing shoulders with sinners. Yes, I really have heard this one. Another criticism is that it's just not right to be naked around people who don't want to see the naked body, especially families and kids. And that one I get a tiny bit more, but not really. Let's talk about these criticisms in depth. Answer number one, the World Naked Bike Ride is fun. And without a biblical mandate against this kind of thing, fun is enough of a reason. It's a good enough reason. People might bring up Romans chapter 14 or 1 Corinthians chapter 8, which are not really relevant to this issue, as you'll see up here in this playlist. Suffice it to say, stumbling does not mean you're insulting or offending someone or upsetting them. Causing someone to stumble means getting that person to do the exact thing that you yourself are doing. Meanwhile, that person is participating even while that person still thinks that what the person is doing is sinful. That's causing someone to stumble. Going out on the World Naked Bike Ride and, giving people an eyeful of something that they'll say they didn't ask for, not stumbling. Someone could bring up Romans chapter 12, verse 18 that says, "As much as lies with you, live peaceably with all people." The problem with that is, as much as lies with me means make sure I'm doing the right thing. As much as lies with me, live peaceably with all people. If I'm doing something good and someone wants to freak out about it, that's often not going to be lying with me. That's not going to be an issue for me to try to address. Now, do I think that shock value is always okay? No, I think that we should, generally speaking, try not to offend people. But it doesn't mean that every time you offend someone, you've done something wrong. If I take my son out fishing and some animal rights Karen comes by and is like, "You shouldn't be fishing, they have lives just like you," and all these things. Well, I offended her by fishing in front of her. Does that mean I should pack up and leave? No, it means she needs to grow up. People are going to fish. If you don't want to see people fishing, go somewhere else. Just leave me alone about it. I have more recently heard a new argument for modesty that maybe I should cover in a whole video. But the argument is, as humans, we have a right not to have to see naked people in public. Really, we have an innate, God-given right for everyone to look the way that we want them to look. To naturists, that sounds like a pretty great right. Am I right? I don't like clothes. I don't like the way that clothes look on people. I like people better naked. So if I have a right for people to look the way that I want them to look, I'm going to ask everyone to be naked. Okay, you can't run society based on, I have a right for people to look the way I want them to look, or to dress the way I want them to dress. That's not how society functions. You can't have a working society with that, because then that's just going to be the brute majority. What if the brute majority decides everyone's going to wear a burqa? Or everyone's going to be naked for that matter. Or everyone has to wear a kilt. Or everyone has to wear a giant pink tiara and a wig. Okay, the majority can't necessarily decide these things. Even the majority can't decide just because we prefer people to dress a certain way, everyone has to dress that way. That's just not how this thing is supposed to work. So I don't think that's a good argument, and maybe it should be its own video, but we're going to move on. You might also consider 1 Corinthians 10:32, where Paul says that we should try to avoid offending people. And again, I think that's a really good rule of thumb. However, Yeshua did not do that universally. Neither did Paulos or Paul. Neither did Paul. So Yeshua went out of his way to do things that he knew were going to offend people, a lot of people. So did Paul. And Paul's the one who said that we should try not to offend people. So how do we make sense of this? Pretty much everyone agrees that slavery is bad, that abolishing it was good. Right? Getting rid of slavery is generally agreed to be a good thing. Well, anti-slavery abolitionists were very public and highly offensive. They offended a lot of people just by suggesting, hey, you should free all your slaves. That was very offensive. and like doing public demonstrations with signs and trying to get legislation out was really offensive to people. But what they did, like, is getting rid of slavery bad then? Because they offended people? It doesn't work that way. Yeshua offended the Pharisees because he helped people in ways that they didn't like. Paul offended the Jews by doing things they didn't like, and Paul offended the Gentiles by doing things they didn't like, publicly. And like we just saw, the abolitionist movement, the anti-slavery movement, is not considered bad because it was offensive to the people of its time. So it is not a question of whether or not Christians are allowed to be offensive. It's a question of which issues are so important that they justify Christians being offensive. That's the question. Obviously, the gospel meets that standard, and human rights violations meet that standard. My fellow Christians, do you think that Muslim women are doing the right thing by protesting the hijab in Iran? There's a movement of women who are going top free from here up, but top free. And they are suffering for it because it's extremely offensive to the men and the leadership of Iran. Is what they're doing bad? Are their public protests bad? Shouldn't they try to get this absurd requirement of head coverings, hair coverings, facial coverings? Shouldn't they be trying to get that undone? Isn't that worth offending people over, to free these women from this oppressive requirement? From this gift wrapping of the head, where if the hijab slips a bit, then a Muslim man is justified in raping this woman? Shouldn't they be trying to fight this? Isn't that worth offending people for? Oh, so these Muslim women do have a right to be offensive. They are doing the right thing, even though their demonstrations involve public nudity, according to Islamic standards. Those women are being oppressed, and they have every right to offend their oppressors. Granted, the leadership in Iran, these Muslim men, they don't see it as oppression. They see it as public decency, to maintain the fabric of society. To be decent and sane and human, you just have to keep these parts of the body covered up. It sounds familiar, doesn't it? So again, the question is not whether we're allowed to be offensive. It's a question of whether or not naturism is important enough to merit offense. Naturism is incredibly healing for both men and women, morally and psychologically. Now, naturism has a lot going for it physiologically and medically as well, but that's not, for the purposes of this conversation, it's not nearly as important as the moral and psychological benefits. What if we frame this in terms of pornography? Is a reliable cure for pornography addiction for men worth offending people over? A reliable cure? I think it is. Is not just about lust and pleasure. It's a vortex of misery, suffering, and desperation. And not just desperation for connection, which does become increasingly difficult to achieve the deeper into pornography you go, but desperation for freedom. To drop these chains that are weighing these men down. Many of them long to be free. They long to get away from all of that, to be free. Naturism can help these men achieve that. It helped me, and it helped countless other Christian men that I know to get free. I think that makes this worth it. So, is breaking the chains of pornography worth offending people over? Is a lasting solution for these men, deep healing, worth offending people over? Is healing these men at a level at which they never find pornography to even be appealing again, which is what happens with naturist men? Is that worth it? I say yes. Hell yes. Patreon time! This episode of Mudwalkers is brought to you by Patreon. These guys are my patrons. They're making the channel happen. They're keeping my work sustainable. I can't thank these guys enough for everything they're doing on Patreon. If you're interested in supporting what I do, financially speaking, Patreon is the way to go. You'll see the link up here momentarily, but there'll also be a link in the description down below. Also, look at my link tree. That's important as well. So there are different levels at which you can support me. Starting down at the bottom level, you get early access to all my mainline content, videos like this one. Starting above that, you get access not just to those videos, but you get access to all my Patreon exclusive videos, things like cooking videos, travel vlogs, just general personal updates, behind the scenes content, that kind of stuff. And at that level, that second lowest level and above, you also get access to our monthly Zoom call. And that is honestly the highlight of my month with Patreon. It's my favorite aspect of Patreon is getting to meet you guys and have the great conversations that we have. I love that time. We get to hang out and share stories and swap ideas, and in general, just have fun and talk as people. It's awesome. We've got some really great people coming into Patreon recently, into these calls. Good Christian men, good Christian women who understand this issue. And if you even just want to talk about the issue in general, but you're not a naturist, hit me up. I want to hear from you. I want to talk about this. I want to reason through these issues. And if you want to change my mind, I mean, have at it. I've changed my mind about it before. I used to be a textile, used to be against naturism, but now here I am based on the evidence. So if you want to bring counter evidence and convert me again, I'll convert again. I'm rambling at this point, so let's get back into the video. So we've talked about some of the benefits for men, but what about the misery that women live in? I'm not a woman. I'm still learning about these issues, but what little I have learned, I will try to relate to you now. Women deal with a lot of anxiety and depression around how their bodies look. Women also live in near constant low-level fear of unfamiliar men, and often, unfortunately, familiar men, even household figures. And women suffer in terms of lots of other issues around their bodies, like body image, bodily autonomy, physical safety. The list goes on and on. Naturism helps women with these issues. If you don't believe me, hear from a woman right here. I interviewed Sarah. She is a naturist woman who I was able to interview, and she went over a lot of these issues and helped explain it straight from the horse's mouth, if you will. So check that out. Naturism really does help women with these issues. In naturism, women begin to love their bodies just as they are. And women are night and day far safer in naturist settings than they are out in the regular world. Is the freedom of women from these negative, debilitating, toxic impacts of normal society, is protecting women from all that worth offending people over? I would say yes. Fighting for women to have the freedom to enjoy naturism is, yeah, totally worth it. So we talked about the whole offending people thing, but what about the World Naked Bike Ride and its, say, wild party atmosphere, to put it lightly? With the World Naked Bike Ride being so wild in certain aspects, why the World Naked Bike Ride specifically for me as a Christian naturist? Why the World Naked Bike Ride and not something else, something less wild, shall we say? Frankly, it's the best thing we got right now as American naturists. This is the best public demonstration that I know of for people to get out there and demonstrate to people at large that nudity is not going to cause society to just crumble overnight or something. Your body is not a nuclear bomb that's going to level the city if someone sees your butt cheeks. Like, grow up. However, one of the criticisms is that because of this wild atmosphere of the World Naked Bike Ride, it doesn't really represent actual naturism. It represents a bunch of naked party people displaying kinks, etc. But that's not naturism. And I wholeheartedly agree. I think Hector Martinez has solved this problem in Guadalajara and Mexico City. He's putting on what he calls Dia al Desnudo, or a day in the nude. And what this is, well, it originally started out as a public march. They would get their paperwork all done with the municipality and everything, and they get a police escort. And they put a rope around all the actual naturists, and they would just march through the city, holding up their banners and signs and proclaiming their message, things like, you know, your body is not dangerous, your body is beautiful, things like that. And it went really well, and then the second year they did it, they didn't make it a march. Hector turned it into an event, like a sit-in event at a public park. And there were games, there was food, music, all kinds of great stuff. And it seems to have had, I wasn't there, but it seems to have had a markedly positive outcome. Love to talk to Hector about that sometime. And I think an event like that is really what naturists need to build here in the States so that we can finally get away from the World Naked Bike Ride. The World Naked Bike Ride is fun sometimes, but it's really not the best thing naturists could be using to advocate for our rights to, just be ourselves in public. But here in the United States, we don't have Dia al Desnudo, at least not yet. So yeah, until we get something like that up and running in the States, we're pretty much stuck with the World Naked Bike Ride. But another good reason to go to the World Naked Bike Ride is it's good networking. I have met so many great naturists at the World Naked Bike Ride. In fact, I'm now a member of a non-landed club here in Louisiana because of a guy I met at the New Orleans ride. I may not have ever met him in person, who knows. If I hadn't been down there for the ride, he came over, shook my hand, hugged my neck, and said, "Hey, you're Mudwalkers, all these things. I sent you a DM a while back, and oh yeah, I remember you," and like all these things. And he said, "Well, I'm building a non-landed naturist club here in the New Orleans area. Why don't you sign up, come join us?" So I did. And that may not ever have happened if I hadn't been at the ride. So the rides can be really good networking. And maybe the people that you'll meet at the ride are naturists, but maybe they're not part of your naturist circles in your social media. Some of these people might not even be on social media, but you can strike up conversations and meet people, and then you find out, oh, this person doesn't live that far away from me. And then you just start to build things, and your network begins to grow as a result of this. Now again, World Naked Bike Ride, not the best thing, but the networking is pretty cool. My final reason, I am a Christian. The World Naked Bike Ride is not Christian. In fact, it's one of the more un-Christian things you could possibly attend in our country, which makes it a prime mission field. I interview sinners on my World Naked Bike Ride videos. Sue me. I interviewed some pretty interesting characters in this for the St. Louis ride video. I'm not going to make any apologies about that. Why? Because I am doing what Yeshua did, what Jesus did. When Jesus was told, "Don't go to Samaria, it'll ruin your reputation," Yeshua said, "Yeah, but those people need me. Those people need the gospel. You can't tell me not to go there. There's people there, and they need the gospel. I'm going." He saw a dark place and decided to be a light in it. How are we supposed to reach people with the gospel of Yeshua, with Yahweh's message of light and truth and reconciliation, if we don't go where they are? We should be going to these people, finding them like Yeshua did, like Paul did, and go and find them and offer love and joy and peace and community beyond anything this world could possibly offer them. What we have access to in the Christian community is far better than what these people could possibly get out there in the world. Now, granted, a lot of Christian churches in America right now have their fair share of problems, but we should be building the Christian community as it is meant to be and calling these people into it. Not forcing, calling, inviting. This guy once criticized me for attending the World Naked Bike Ride because I was surrounded by sinners. My response was, if I'm surrounded by sinners, then that's exactly where I should be, because where else would you need to bring light but to a dark place? He said, well, then people might associate you with these people and your reputation might suffer. Your moral standing with other people might decrease as a result of associating being around these people. Yeah, that should sound familiar. Remember in the Gospels when Yeshua went and ate with tax collectors and sinners, and the Pharisees trashed his reputation because of it? Remember that? When Yeshua went to places that were off limits, religiously speaking, because he was going to bring them the gospel? Remember that? And how the Pharisees reacted poorly to it? I'm doing just like he did, and the people criticizing me are doing just like the Pharisees. Just bear that in mind. Yeshua went to these places. He didn't care they were off limits. He cared that they were dark places that needed light. He cared that they were suffering people who needed healing. That's what mattered to him. Okay, so what's the light and what's darkness? Light is healing, wisdom, truth, reconciliation. It's goodness. It's the good message of Yeshua, of Yahweh, the God of the Bible, the Lord. It's the gospel that yes, we've made mistakes. It's our fault the world is broken and still breaking. We do terrible, terrible things to each other, to ourselves, to Yahweh, to Yahweh's good creations all around us. We are broken. The world is broken because of us. And for that, we deserve to die, not just in the body, but also the spirit. Jesus himself said, don't be afraid of the one who can only kill the body. Be afraid of the one who can kill body and soul. We don't just deserve to die physically. We deserve to die body and soul. That's what we deserve because we are breaking each other, breaking ourselves, and breaking God's good world. We deserve that. But Yahweh's good message is, he doesn't want you to die. He doesn't want you to die forever physically. He doesn't want you to die spiritually. He wants to heal you, to embrace you, to reconcile with you. But you've got to agree to leave all of your crap behind. I've got to agree to leave all of my crap behind. All my mistakes, my bad habits, all of those get left behind. We have to strive to love him, to love one another, to care for his good creatures, his good creation. It's our job to do the right thing and have this good relationship with one another and with him. That's all he asks of us, is just to love each other, to love him. And he will heal everything, us, the world, everything. That is his message. That's the light that we're bringing to darkness. What is the darkness? Darkness is the opposite of that. The opposite is suicide, anxiety, depression, misery. The languishing of our culture right now. Our culture is suffering a huge mental health crisis, a huge moral crisis. These people are aimless. They are walking around blind and naked in the dark. They are freezing to death outside of the warmth of Yahweh's embrace. We need to help these people, to help them find healing, reconciliation, and joy, and deep peace. If you're watching this and you don't know Yahweh, you don't know Yeshua, let me tell you, there is immense healing and peace, deep peace in your soul. Are you tired of anxiety? Are you tired of fear? Are you tired of your misery and your suffering? The suffering in your very soul. Yahweh can heal you. Please reach out to somebody. Please talk to people. Please reach out and learn more about the Bible. Learn more about Yeshua. He wants to heal you. He wants to love you. And we as Christians, those of us who are still doing right, want to help you. We want to help you become the best version of yourself, the real you, the you were born as, that you. We want you to become that to the fullest extent. Yahweh loves you, and I love you, and I want the best for you. That is the message. That's the light in the darkness. That's what I want to bring to these people. Where there is darkness, start throwing candles in, start throwing road flares in, start throwing flashlights in there. Throw light into the dark places. Yeah, that flashlight is going to look small and dim as it descends into that dark abyss. So throw more. That's the solution. The solution to darkness is not less light, it's more light. Yahweh does not shy away from dark places. Yeshua does not shy away from dark places. When the religious leaders of Yeshua's time forbade people from entering Samaria, for moral reasons I might add, Yeshua said, no, I'm going in there. Those people need healing. Those people need me. They need the gospel. They need this reconciliation with Yahweh. They need that. I'm going to go help them. I don't care. I don't care that you have a problem with this. They need this, and I'm going to go do everything I can to help them. His reputation suffered. He did not care. He didn't care what people said about him. What he cared about was helping people. Yeshua's own disciples had a hard time with the idea of going into Samaria, this forbidden region. And when they asked him, are you sure you want to go in there? Like, really? You want to know what he said? John chapter 4. He said, the fields are white for harvest. A field turning white was a sign that a certain kind of grain was just ripe, just ready to have this big harvest. It was ready to just come in, to be scooped in and be delicious. He's giving this positive, beautiful analogy. Like guys, do you not see it? These people are ready for healing. These people are ready for joy, for peace. They're right there. They are ready to hear this. They understand this. I just have to go tell them. I just have to get there. And they will get this. I can tell they will get this. It's ripe for the harvest. His disciples asked him, do you really want to go in there and risk all this to yourself? Do you really want to go in there and like do this? Yeshua said, yep, because they need it. And I don't know where to bring light except to dark places. Why would I get out a flashlight right now, standing right here in the sun, and shine a flashlight back out at the sun? Whoop-de-flippin' do. What's the point? What am I going to do? Like walk around church and preach the gospel? Am I going to go walking down the street where there are 5, 6, 7 Baptist churches and start handing out, gospel tracts and things? Where most of us are already Christians. I'm not saying you shouldn't, try to talk to people about these things in your own neighborhoods. But shouldn't we also be seeking out the dark, hopeless places and bring light and hope to them? That's what the World Naked Bike Ride is. When I go to these rides, I have a certain amount of fun, but there are a lot of suffering people at these rides. How can you not want to be there? How can you not want to go and smile at these people and bring some joy to their lives and tell them that there is someone who loves them, even if no one else ever does? There have been times in my life I felt very alone, but you know what got me through? Yahweh's Spirit, God's Spirit inside me, alongside me, all around me. He permeates everything in my life. He got me through. He brought me such great love and joy and peace that carried me through all the sufferings of my life up until now, and all the rest of the sufferings of my life. He can carry me through. If I rely on Him, He will get me through it. He will get you through it. If you just lean on Him, you will find Him to be a solid rock. So many people are leaning on things that will not hold them up. And then they fall through it and they suffer. Yahweh will never let you down. Lean on Him and you will find Him to be a solid rock. So, if you're an American Christian looking for a mission field, if you feel like you don't spend enough time around unbelievers, you really want a dark place to shine a light into, the World Naked Bike Ride. Come on out. Help me. There's only one of me out here. There's a few more of us Christian naturists attending World Naked Bike Rides around the country, but there are too few of us. The fields are ready, but the harvesters are few. Therefore, pray to the Lord of the harvest that He may send workers out into the fields. Please join me in this work. This is a mission field, and we're missing out. Not only are we missing out on helping people, but a lot of these people are brilliant. Not just, intellectually, but even if they're not that bright intellectually, there's so much heart these people bring. If you could see the love they have for one another, the community that they share among these people, they could bring that to Christianity. They could bring that to the American church. They know how to do this. We're missing out by not going in there. Do you have any idea how much joy there is in talking about these things with people who are not Christians? So much. If you want a mission field, join me. Let's go. I will show you a mission field, and we will proclaim the good news of what Yahweh wants to do in these people's lives. My hope every time is that even if I'm talking to a specific person at the World Naked Bike Ride and I'm not able to get quite there to specifics before the conversation is over, that at least this person can come back to my videos or maybe see me in the future or something and be like, wait a second, we never really talked about religion, just talked to him for 30 seconds. But this whole time, that smiling guy who just was so nice to me, that guy was a Christian? Here I am, this rainbow-painted, costumed queer, and that bearded Christian guy just was super nice and wasn't mean to me. That's odd. I didn't know Christians could be nice to people like me. My hope is that they'll find the love of God in me as I interact with these people. No, you're not always going to be able to get to the point where you can go over every single detail of the gospel with every single person. That's not possible. But what you can do is let the love of God drip from you as you go. Just let it just fill your whole being so that as you move in the world, it just goes all over the place. It overflows in how you live your life. That's my goal when I'm at these rides, is even with the people that I don't get to have that detailed conversation with, they will see it in me. And I'm relying on the Spirit to use those little interactions, those little experiences as seeds from which the gospel can then grow. Okay, so I accept these people as people. Does that mean that I ignore or condone all of their behavior? By no means, absolutely not. These people are often engaged in truly heinous things, horrible things, toxic to themselves, toxic to society. A lot of the people at these rides have very toxic lifestyles. I by no means ignore that. I don't downplay that. However, if my brother was a kleptomaniac, and none of my siblings are, as far as I know, if my brother was a kleptomaniac and he stole lots of things from me, I wouldn't hate him. You know, I would be hurt and I wouldn't condone what he did, but I would still love him. He's my brother. The way I see it, all people, everyone, is my kin. We're all some kind of family. Read scripture. We all go back to one father and one mother, Adam and Hava, Adam and Eve. Adam and Hava are the father and mother of us all. So when you see someone at these World Naked Bike rides, someone in Walmart, someone at the mall, someone on the sidewalk, you go back far enough and you share ancestors with that person. You are kin. Distant, but you're kin. Sometimes closer than you might expect as well. So the way I see it, these are all my brothers and sisters and cousins that I'm just waiting to get to know. Why would I hate them? No, I don't condone. I don't condone what these people are doing. But I love them. And how can I can't help myself but to go and try to be Christ to them, to try and bring Yeshua to them, his message to them, his love to them, his spirit to them. As Christians, don't discount the power of the Holy Spirit in your life. He radiates from you like a heater in the winter. If you've ever been cold and walked past an electric heater at an event, and you've been, all curled up, you walk past the heater and you go, oh. You start warming yourself at that heater because you felt it tingling the side of your face as you walked by. The Holy Spirit radiates from you like a heater in the winter. People can feel that. They can often feel that. They can often sense him with you. Cherish that. Remember that. He is with you. If you don't know what to say, don't know what to do, don't know where to go, he is with you wherever you go. Rely on him. Ask him to shine out of you, to let the gospel be a lamp uncovered by the basket, a shining city on a hill, so that you can shine his glory through you. You can be a lantern in which his flame burns to reach these people, even if they don't know it yet, even if they don't know exactly what that is yet. They're like, there's something different about this girl. Like, whenever I'm around her, there's just like this, I don't know, like peaceful joy. Like, she's just so loving. And I can't put my finger on what that is. Turns out she's a spirit-filled believer in the one true God, and she's bringing that love into these people's lives. Don't discount that. Value it. Cherish it. He's an important part of your life for a reason. You can bring that to these people. That's what I'm trying to do with the World Naked Bike Ride is, yes, you use words to preach the gospel, but also to shine him through myself, through every fiber of my being and everything that I do. That's the goal. I'm not saying I'm perfect at that, but that's the goal. And I would urge you, even if it's not the World Naked Bike Ride, go and find yourself a dark place to dive into and let the Spirit shine. Will everyone in the darkness like the light? No, most will not, as a matter of fact. Most will hate the light, and they might even abuse you as a result. Bring the light in anyway. So, do I think that what these people are doing is often toxic and immoral? Yes. Do I hate them? No. Do I want to help them? Yes. Do I still love them? Yes. Then I will go, if for no other reason than to shine a light in a truly dark place. But it's also super fun, and I'm trying to build a day in the nude here in the United States. What? What?